You're not meant to heal in a crowd. You're meant to heal in a cocoon, right? Like how the caterpillar turns into the butterfly. A sacred, quiet, sometimes lonely space, right? People don't talk about this part of healing enough for me. It's the loneliness. Nobody warns you that it's about quiet, sitting in rooms that you used to fill with noise, and realizing that you no longer fit into the spaces you once flourished in, right? Healing brings a sense of clarity, but clarity brings separation. And it's not because you're better than anyone. It's because the version of you that accepted certain things no longer exists. Today, we're talking about that kind of loneliness. The loneliness that comes from finally choosing yourself, chirpers. And in the midst of this, we can pray that those around us can see and respect our growth and not see it as neglect, right?
Welcome to Chirp Session, hosted by AC Thompson.
Welcome to the Chirp Session Weekly Diary Series Blooming. I'm your host, AC Thompson. This month, like I've said before, in March, we are blooming into versions of ourselves and recalibrating and finding ourselves in ways that we haven't before, chirpers. And today we are talking about the loneliness of healing, right? And we'll start by addressing the elephant in the room, okay? Let's start with the truth that we don't like to admit. Healing is one of the most isolating things you'll ever do. It's shadow work. It's lonely. Healing asks you to do some things that you're not quite used to. It asks you to pull away from habits you used to rely on, people that you used to tolerate, distractions you used to hide behind, identities that you outgrew, right? Environments that you maybe once called home. It asks you to sit with yourself in a way that you've never done before. And it's very uncomfortable, y'all. Shadow work, looking in the mirror, being with yourself is uncomfortable. And we'll transition through the phases and you'll understand and see when you transition out of the, oh, this is lonely thing, okay? That quiet, it can feel loud. It does feel uncomfortable. It can even be painful. You don't actually lose people during your healing era. You lose the versions of yourself that actually depended on them and needed them. And a lot of times people like to feel needed if they played that role in your life the entire time. But the hardest part about healing is not growing, it's grieving. And so we're letting go of things. So we have to grieve the things that once had a spot in our life. You know, we have these different things planted around us. And when we start to cut those trees down, we start to grieve. And it doesn't look like our garden is as full, but we're just cultivating our crop and making things a little bit better to grow these new and beautiful versions of ourselves, okay? When you heal, you grieve the people who only knew how to love you unhealed. The friendships built on trauma bonding, the relationships that fed into your wounds. You got a boo-boo and they fed into that. The connections that were rooted in your survival and not the spirit of you, okay? And you grieve you grieve the you that tolerated what hurt you. Nobody prepares you for the heartbreak of realizing I can't go back to who I was. I can't stay where I am, but I'm not fully who I'm becoming yet. So we're in this weird in-between space. Y'all, I hate gray areas, but you get in this between space of I can't stay here. I can't go back, but I'm still not where I'm supposed to be. And that's when that loneliness just it kicks in, right? Many call that the healing of what we're doing, that's our glow up phase. Nah, baby, nah. Nah, healing isn't just the glow up. It's not the glow up. It's the shedding. You're lightening your load. You're getting rid of this heaviness. And loneliness is not a punishment, it's a preparation. Loneliness creates space. And you have space for so many things then. For clarity, you have space for boundaries, you have space for emotional honesty, and space for the right people to enter your life. Because when you're surrounded by noise, you can't hear your intuition. When you're surrounded by distractions, you can't hear your inner voice, right? When you're surrounded by the wrong energy, you can't recognize the right energy. Healing pulls you back so you can recalibrate, so you can learn yourself, so you can rebuild your identity from a place of truth and not defense. And guess what, y'all? We might have to do this more than one time in our lifetime. I've had to recalibrate, I'm going to say, about 3 or 4 times in my life, chirpers. Maybe 5. Big calibrations. Ooh, and they hurt. They were painful. But that's all a part of living this life and growing. Growth is not easy. Growth is not comfortable. Okay? Your isolation is alignment. Let's talk about the parts that really scare people the most, okay? Healing, it forces you to admit a few things, actually. It forces you to admit that some people can't meet you where you're going. Some relationships aren't compatible with your peace, right? Some connections, they lose their grip once you find your voice. Some people are used to you being quiet and just going with the flow. Some circles shrink as your standards grow. And that hurts. It hurts, y'all. Because outgrowing someone doesn't mean you stop loving them. It just means you stop abandoning yourself to keep them. And people will tell you, well, you can learn how to love me in this process, but that means I'm still factoring you into my process, and my healing is my healing, right? You can love people deeply and still not want them in the next chapter of your life. Oof. It stings saying that, y'all. It's our rebirth season. And if you look back on friends from elementary, middle school, high school, college, are they still around? And if they are, have y'all kind of gone in separate directions? It's kind of how it happens. Healing does not ask you to stop loving those people, though. It asks you to stop losing yourself for them. And a lot of times they don't even realize that you're losing yourself in them. You don't realize you're losing yourself in them. And so you end up in this weird space and you come to a halt. You stop growing. Once you understand that, chirpers, loneliness starts to feel a lot different. There's a moment in your healing when the light bulb just goes off. Well, the light bulb turns on. I'm going to say that. And the loneliness shifts. What does it do? It softens. It steadies. It turns into something else entirely. Like it turns into peace, and the quiet becomes comforting, and the solitude becomes sacred, and the distance becomes protection, and the space becomes clarity. And then you realize, yeah, I'm not lonely anymore. You're simply surrounded by what's meant for you. That groundwork, that's you. Yeah, once y'all get to that space to where this don't even feel lonely, I can sit with myself and this feels amazing, right? Peace feels like loneliness when you've never experienced calm before. When you've never experienced that, the first word you associate with it is loneliness. No, baby, that's peace. So let's close with this reminder that your spirit may need, because this conversation may have been hard for a lot of people today. You're not meant to heal in a crowd. You're meant to heal in a cocoon, right? Like how the caterpillar turns into the butterfly. A sacred, quiet, sometimes lonely space, right? where your next version is being formed. This loneliness isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of your alignment, your boundaries, your clarity, your becoming. Okay? Your boundaries, your clarity, your becoming. And one day, chirpers, I truly believe you'll look back and say, that season, it wasn't even lonely. It wasn't lonely. That season was necessary. That was not loneliness. That was something necessary. I needed that. Okay? Thank you for listening. Thank you for growing. And thank you for choosing yourself, even when it does feel lonely. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Chirp Session via your favorite podcast platform. Follow Chirp Session on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X for behind-the-scenes content and to join the conversation. Until next time, spread your wings. I love y'all. This was good today. This was good. Meet me here next week. Later, chirpers. It's extremely hard in those moments. Host AC Thompson.